So what all did you get out of the Flourish deal? Just seeing old friends?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just visiting.
Did you have a lot of your old customers there?
No.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, most people I didn't know.
You didn't?
Yeah.
No, I got to meet Ryan finally, and I've never met Lindsay, so that's the first time I ever got to see what Lindsay looked like. All right,
We're
so
live.
we are up and running. Keith with PrevailOverCancer.com bailed on us last night because he went up to Flourish Pharmacy, who had their grand opening, and went and saw a bunch of old friends. And I even snuck up, right after we jumped out of the chamber, I snuck up there. Ryan and I went up with a camera thinking we were going to do video, but it was a madhouse. That wasn't going to do.
That's
wasn't
right.
going to do that.
Yeah, that was their time, and so. Yeah, it was a great time for them.
I did make some really good connections. In fact, I think I've got a cardiologist that is a functional cardiologist. I didn't even know there was such a thing.
There is, and is that a local person?
Over in Edmond?
Dr. Vargas? Yes,
Yep.
Was she there?
No,
okay.
But I ran into an Exogen rep that handles Flourish, and we got to talking, and he said, "Do you know Dr. Vargas?" And I said, "Nope." So I'm trying to connect. If you have a path for me to connect with her, I've got a great interest in that.
So it's finding a functional medicine practitioner is a challenge.
Right.
And so she's actually a cardiologist specializing in electrophysiology. That means more like irregular heartbeats and electrical conversions and trying to get people into normal heartbeats. But she's been, moving into functional medicine, and she's very smart. She's also certified in the, what's it called, the RECODE program for the Dale Bredesen Alzheimer's program. And so you're very smart.
Yep. Well, I'm trying to connect with. If you have a path, I hope you'll wake her up. I'd love to talk to her. At least I need an introduction at some point, but we cross over a bunch. I mean, I got people that need her services, and I think I got some things her clients would have an interest in. So that's what I try to do. That's how Keith and I met. I try to connect with all the functional medicine people that I can and get that big, I mean, it's not all about what I do here. It's about how somebody can get better faster. And we don't have all the tools. There's a lot of tools out there. So anyway, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm Paul with Hyperbaric.plus. We're at 122nd and May in Oklahoma City. And Keith has become a great friend, and we do this every Thursday, and we learn a lot. In fact, I even started putting into practice some of the things we learned 2 weeks ago in part 1 of our sleep. How can we improve our sleep? So because we're going to be talking about supplementation, why don't you do a little disclaimer?
Sure. So we have disclaimer. So first of all, this information is going to be for educational purposes. Learn from this, take that information, evaluate it, talk to your healthcare practitioner. And we are not telling you that you should do these items, but learn and assess and talk to your practitioners, make changes, and evaluate that. And when we mention supplements, and we're going to talk about some supplements today that I take, for example, the government doesn't like the fact that supplements, well, let's put it this way, supplements are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. That doesn't mean they're not researched, they're just not approved for that use. And so therefore, once again, take the information, use it as information and education purposes, and adapt that for your particular situation along with your healthcare practitioner. So matter of fact, even this week, this has been one of those bad weeks for me. And so email concerns, trying to get, email provider, website host, getting everybody working together. My email went down, my website went down. And so I had to practice those things last night to be able to turn that off, even though things were unsettled, and concerning. But, at 9 o'clock, turn those things off, leave the office, and come and relax. And
wind down and get
some rest. And so by 10:30, I was asleep, and then woke up. I woke up probably around 5 or so, but then I was able to go back to sleep and slept until 6 till the alarm went off, and 6, and then started working on the website again. And it's going, by the way, for those of you that have been trying to get things on social media, because I have thousands of people a day going to my website to get free information. And so it
And
is
there's
operational
a plethora
again.
of free information on your website.
So
That
we
is
always have
awesome.
this, make a comment with a word, a comment or a message with a word, and it takes people get a link going to my website. That wasn't working last night and this morning. So, but it is now. So I don't even know what time that quit working yesterday, but it is working now. So, so that's a little bit better. Email is still a challenge, but I hope to have that fixed by tomorrow sometime.
I just want to make another comment, because when we're talking about our disclaimer, you're always mentioning talk to your healthcare provider about this. I have a lot of my clients that don't want to talk to their health provider because they're afraid of being fired. I mean, when you start stepping off into alternative medicine, some practitioners don't want to have that conversation.
Right.
So you got to go into it with asking a question, not giving an answer.
Yes.
So you always go into it asking a question, and the more that all of us do this with our healthcare providers, the more their eyes are opening that this is a path, that a lot of people are in this space, and it's growing every day.
That's right.
But you have to be really, asking questions, not giving answers. That's a real big deal.
That's right. Yeah. So when you talk to the doctor, your practitioner, and instead of saying, I want to do this, or do this test, a better way to word it, for the practitioner to help them is say, I appreciate your training, your knowledge, and such, and your skills, and I've heard about such and such. What do you think about it? And so, so now they're in a little bit softer position and maybe more willing to discuss that. They still may not agree with it, and so. And some of you are going to have a doctor that just won't do anything whatsoever, but I've seen a major shift in the past few years.
And it's happening because we're asking those questions.
Because you're asking the question. So you have to ask that question, and there's a possibility they may know something that, of course, we're not assessing what's going on in your body right now. So it's difficult for us to say you should do these things. But, the doctor, practitioner may know something about your particular case, whether something might not be appropriate. They're not firing patients the way they used to.
No, it's changing.
It's
really
better.
is.
It's much better. There's still a few doctors that are doing that. If anything, I actually have more doctors that are saying, yeah, I've heard of people doing that, kind of a thing. They're not going to endorse.
Well, they can't. I mean,
a
that's
lot of things, exactly.
Understand that the doctors have to work inside this lane, and they have a real difficult time getting outside the lane, not because of them necessarily, but because of who they work for.
Right.
They're pretty much regulated to a specific part of the road, and it's hard for them to get out of that.
And I want to throw out something else too. So not related to this sleep thing, but just general type things. So this information is educational, and it's a tidbit of our health. Like we're going to be talking about sleep and things you can do for sleep. When we talk about things, and by the way, you can submit questions online and put them in a comment, and Ryan's going to print those off for us, and we'll have that in about 35 minutes. But we want to answer those questions, but also we're not telling you that you should do these and delay treatment. And so I have clients that have read things and read a book or has followed somebody, and
they went rogue.
Yeah, and they're on their own, and it's not going good.
Yeah.
Okay, and so they delayed a procedure or a treatment, and so we want to be careful about that. So I think it's important to gather all of the information we can get and bring that together and work with somebody to help evaluate all that information and help you reason through what should be done. So
good point.
I see that all the time. And so, for example, a person trying a ketogenic diet to treat their cancer, but then they're not hardly doing anything else. And because there are influencers on social media talking about how that kills cancer cells, it's not that easy, okay? And so we need to evaluate everything. So don't just rely on one thing, and don't think that one thing or one pill, even if you take a lot of those pills, it's it's not that easy.
No, that's that's a good comment. I'm glad you brought that
Yeah,
up.
and so anyway, I see that all the time. I'll leave it at that. So, and so we're going to talk about sleep.
Yep.
I'll go through a little bit of a a very brief summary of what we went through a couple of weeks ago. This handout is available at hyperbaric.plus resources page, and then at Prevail Over Cancer Learning Center page. Down toward the bottom of that page, there's a link. Click on it. You can download this guide along with other handouts that we have from other seminars. So I want to go over just a little bit of a summary. And so sleep is your body's, that's when our body repairs. And so you and I are a lot alike. For many years, I've felt like I needed to work. And there's so many things I wanted to do that if I slept more than 4 or 5 hours, I was being lazy and would not be successful. How wrong that is, because we can also use the Parkinson's law and Pareto's principle, and we can actually concentrate what we do in a smaller time frame, and be more successful with that. So, my wife doesn't always agree that I'm taking more time off, but I am not working as much, and I do relax more and take those quiet times, those breaks during the daytime. But anyway, nighttime is when our body detoxes and repairs. Daytime, we're busy doing things physically, mentally. Nighttime is a time when that same amount of energy is being used for other processes and repair. So, it is important that we do get this good repair cycle, good sleep going. Sleep clears the brain, helps the brain to detox and clean out toxins. Our mind is better. It's many studies showing our mind does function better, and learning and memory and even creativity is better when we've had good sleep. Streamline or studies the mood. We're not as short-tempered or whatever, and don't have as much anxiety, things like that. Helps improve our stress hormones and chemicals. Controls cravings. We eat appropriately. Powers the immune system, so it works better to fight infections and cancer. Releases melatonin. Melatonin, we think of it as a sleep chemical, yes, but melatonin is an antioxidant. Repairs cells in our body, lowers inflammation, strengthens defenses, helps repair at the cellular level. So, I mean, every single cell. Matter of fact, there's an interesting study, and actually they had a lady that was hooked up to an IV. They were measuring her cortisol levels, a stress chemical. In the night, it's pitch black in this room, and then they shined while she was asleep, they shined a pin light on her leg, I think on her calf, and her cortisol levels went up.
Wow.
Okay, so that's why we have to sleep in dark.
Yeah.
Okay, and so so they were continuously monitoring her blood, and so she had a spike in cortisol with that. I mean, it wasn't like a gigantic spike, but definitely
Move the needle.
Needle.
Yep.
So, as a matter of fact, we're talking about all kinds of things in the chamber today about electrical magnetic frequencies and all kinds of things. Many different things affect our body and our cells. So sleep helps that as just part of that normal process in dark room. And sometimes we have to use some techniques to help with some of those sleep. Matter of fact, I'm not going into all of those type techniques. There's so many different ones. There's feedback and sound and light and masks, many different things. Everybody's different. We have to try different things on that. Okay, so what else? Our body rebuilds tissue, muscle. Muscle mass is repaired when we're sleeping. Restores energy, helps protect the heart and metabolism, energy production, hormone balances. Matter of fact, our hormones actually start increasing during the night as we're sleeping. And so they even found that out even in adolescence. So hormone levels are going up more at night. Okay, let's see. Improves treatment tolerance. So, if you're going through cancer treatment, research shows that sleep does help you to tolerate the medications better and recover faster. Okay, so another check here. Do you have a problem with sleep? I think that's about where we stopped last time. So, if it takes you longer than 30 minutes to go to sleep, that's a check mark. That's a concern. I wake during the night I wake during the night or too early, often at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I have a tendency to have that problem and struggle to get back to sleep. I now can go back to sleep. I wake up groggy or unrefreshed most mornings. I have to admit, I wake up, I'm ready to go. I'm enjoying it. I feel tired, foggy, or low in energy throughout the day. And then I rely on caffeine to get through the day, or alcohol, or drinking alcohol at night to help calm and relax. And actually, alcohol is going to be a drug that's just going to just make it so you check out, mentally check out. So it's not treating the symptom, but alcohol does make sleep worse. So, matter of fact, we're learning alcohol. There might not be any safe level of alcohol. It used to be, guys could have 2 servings of alcohol a day, we thought, and women 1. But now we're even seeing that actually a lot of cancers, not all, but a lot of cancers are actually increased risk drinking any amount of alcohol, men and women both. So
I don't think people understand how much sugar is in alcohol.
Well,
is that what it is?
No.
Okay.
It's not
So
actually.
I'm off
So
base.
it depends on the type of drink. So wine, there's going to be sugar in it. Okay. Mixed drinks, yes, there's going to be sugars in that. But the type of alcohol that's in a distilled spirit, like a grain alcohol, is not that type of a carbohydrate. Okay. So it doesn't necessarily contribute to a weight gain directly. Indirectly, there may be some other issues, with that. But it's when you start mixing it with other things.
I got you.
It's going to be the major concern about
I got a
that.
question.
Okay, yeah.
So all these companies that are coming out with sugar-free alcohol, that really is not solving any problems.
No, it's not. So
Question is sugar-free alcohol.
Yeah, sugar-free alcohol is, it's still a problem. And so alcohol itself is metabolized by the body, and so this is where males are a little different than females, but it's how the body metabolizes that alcohol and the aldehydes that are made from that. The aldehydes actually damage DNA. And if a person is a slow alcohol metabolizer, that means that aldehyde group of chemicals are actually floating around damaging DNA. So, and if our body can't repair that damage, that increases the risk of that cell becoming cancerous, and or other health concerns. So once again, they are making a lot of alcohol-free beverages, and basically, grain alcohol, is a sugar-free.
You mean sugar-free alcoholic beverages?
Sugar-free alcoholic beverages.
Yeah, you said alcohol-free beverages.
Okay.
So
Sorry, thank you.
Get that back on
My brain's going too fast.
There you go.
But distilled spirits are a type of a sugar that will not create a weight gain, but it's the other things that we may do with that. Eating with that, or it can actually help. It can keep you from sleeping soundly, which creates a weight gain, because now our body's not operating right, and or it's a drug and it's going through the liver, so it can create some liver damage and contribute to alcohol fatty liver. Yes. So, but it's also the carbs from other foods and maybe some beverages that are a problem with that. So, thank you for your question. Okay, daytime strategies, things to do to help out so you can actually go to sleep at night. Keep a consistent sleep and wake time. We talked about that today. And so that's, there's one person mentioned that, but we had so many questions. I didn't suggest that one person, their sleep time varies quite a bit. And a couple people, due to work, they had an issue. And so that's where sometimes we can use things like melatonin to try to help a better sleep cycle, and or darkness. So dark helps us to sleep better, and that's where tools may help out with that, like a mask or dark window shades and such like that to help block out that light. So getting morning sunlight within an hour of wakening. So matter of fact, I love this time of year because I can go outside in the morning and I sit on the back porch and look off to the east and watch the sunrise and do a little Bible study, I love that. And often I'm actually doing a little short video of that sunrise. It's different every day, and that's my favorite way to start the day. Exercise regularly and have that matter of fact, consistency in everything. Our body functions with a pattern, and if we're consistent with that, anytime we have a change, that can throw us off temporarily, but if that happens all the time, if every day is going to be totally different, that's a challenge. And I know actually there's things happen. There can be jobs, there can be emergencies, there can be children, and there's different times in our life and seasons of our life that things can happen. But we've got to get this routine down. Very important with that. Cut off caffeine after about 2 o'clock. Now, some people, and actually I'm a fast metabolizer with my genetic test, confirmed what I kind of suspected. I can drink alcohol.
That was the old days.
That's the old days. That was the old days.
Yeah.
I can drink a coffee, and 2 hours later I'm asleep. And so, but I'm a fast metabolizer. When I use caffeine on a long cross-country drive, especially pulling horse trailer or cargo trailer across the country, and I choose to drive throughout the night, I just sip on the caffeine. I can't drink 1 cup and stay awake for 6 hours. I have to kind of sip on that throughout the trip. And then also no carbohydrates, because carbohydrates will cause a crash and I'll fall asleep. So I'll eat nuts and seeds and drink some caffeine without a problem, but I need to plan ahead. So 2 hours after that is when I can go to sleep. So so it depends on the person, but a lot of people, even noon sometimes is a cutoff time for some people because they're a slow metabolizer. And then manage stress, anxiety, and mood. So I'm a stressful time with my website recently and emails, and so it made it a little bit more difficult to turn it off, and I had to go through these techniques that we'll talk about. Wind down and calm the nervous system. So things help like the last hour before bedtime. And so, read with, actually we just turn 1 light bulb on in the living room, but read by a dim light. You can take a bath, a warm bath, play calming music or nature sounds. Matter of fact, one of my favorite things also is at night just going outside and listen to the toads and crickets, and
katydids.
Yeah, katydids, and just listen to that and the dark sky. I do live in the country, so that's a blessing I have. So it's not much light.
Well, this year you don't have to worry about the mosquitoes buzzing in your ear.
This time of year, that's right.
Yeah,
A few mosquitoes. There can be some, but yeah. So
well, it's been so dry. They're not.
Well, we do have ponds. In the country we have
Yeah.
ponds and stock tanks
I
and
gotcha.
things like that. I have to check my horse's tank. Okay, any squigglies? Okay, if so, got to dump that out completely. So with that, no alcohol. Do some gentle movement, stretching, meditation, breath work, prayer, journaling, gratitude, aromatherapies. There's several things, and I mentioned a lot. Get the hand out, okay? So there's many different things and routine that we can do. And so, and then definitely no alcohol, I put in capital letters. Alcohol reduces REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, and it actually increases nighttime awakenings, even though you think, yes, if you're using it to disassociate yourself from your life or any other chemicals that you use for that, it may help that initial phase, but it's not going to help with the right type of sleep, with that. So reduce light exposure, dim the lights, and go with warmer color lights. Take a screen-free hour before bedtime, and that's one of the things I do. Actually, the TV is on. There's some silly show. Whenever we make the mistake of watching a drama or an action flick, I can't go to sleep for a few hours, actually. So I learned that I can actually just some silly thing on, usually a veterinarian show, and about animals, and I can close my eyes and I'm out. But I close my eyes, prepare the room, and finish chores early. So, brush your teeth, wash your face, get your pills, clean the kitchen. Don't be thinking, I got to go do this before the next day. plan ahead, do that before you start the wind down procedure. So, for the evening. And then a cool room, cool temperature is very important. So, we turn our temperature down in the wintertime, we let it go low, actually 60 degrees. Actually, officially, they say 60 to 67 Fahrenheit. Dark and quiet bedroom is going to be the best. That's a little bit cool. I guess I'm a cheapskate. I don't want to turn the air conditioner down that much. But we have a ceiling fan going, and matter of fact, I have to sleep with actually a sheet on and part of a bedspread, over part of my body because it's cold. So, with that. So turn down the heat. So that coolness just helps our body to sleep better. And then, there's another technique, and we talked about therapeutic breathing. I have a guide on my website about that. But that therapeutic breathing is very important, and that I practice that. Now, I read something new this last week. I actually added it to a new update to my sleep guide that I'm going to put on my website now that it's operational again. And actually, blinking.
Blinking. I'd never heard of that.
Me either.
Well,
And
you got me on the breath work.
Breath
when
work,
I wake
yes.
up in the middle of the night and I can't go back to sleep, a little breath by the third cycle.
Yeah.
I'm yawning so bad
Right.
that I can't take in
Can't
that
take it.
through
Right.
my nose. And that's helped me tremendously go back to sleep.
Well, yes, and
And
so
now blinking.
I do that. And matter of fact, I'm actually combining the blinking with breathing, and it's kind of interesting. But there's a rhythmic blinking that you can do, and there's actually 3 different ways you can do it. So, but have a rhythmic type blinking. It's a weird sensation,
Wow.
and it feels weird.
And it's on your website. I can go check it out.
I'm going to have it on
Okay.
there, so it's not on there yet. So,
Send me a link when you get
okay.
that posted.
And so, but you blink in this rhythmic pattern, but it helps to turn your mind off. I think is part of what it does. But also, closing our eyes is part of that sleep process. But when I close my eyes and then open them and close them and open them, I have to admit, it's a weird feeling. And so I did that last night with actually stresses about the website and emails, and along with breathing, and I was out in a few minutes. I was rather shocked with that. And then I fell asleep in the recliner, and I actually got up at midnight and walked to the bedroom. It was dark in the house, and walked to the bedroom, crawled in, and went right back to sleep. So, but blinking, and so it's kind of like the old thing about counting sheep, and so yes, so counting may help out. I can't do prayer at night to go to sleep because I get too involved in the prayer, and combination of praying for people or myself, whatever. That's too active a process for me. So I have to do this other thing, the breathing, and once again the blinking. I'm trying to figure this out. Now actually, it's like I was blinking. It's like then I couldn't open my eyes. So it's kind of a weird feeling.
Well, I'm anxious to try that.
that,
One thing I wanted to bring up, because my mind is racing. I'm thinking of all the things I got to do, and
Yes,
that's what we do, and it makes it hard to go to sleep when your mind's stuck on all these other things. So whenever I have those kinds of thoughts, and I'm afraid I'm going to forget something that I'm thinking about, I've got a pen and pad next to my bed, and in the dark, I will write down something to make me remember that, or tells me I'm going to remember what it is. May not be able to hardly read it, but write it down and get it off your mind.
That's right.
And so a pen and pad next to the bed is tremendous for me.
It is, yeah.
Yep.
And or even in that, or an hour or two before bedtime is the same thing. I will make notes as I think of something, and okay, well, yes. Or my wife says, well, you need to do this. Okay, well, this is not the time to be telling me that, And so
I got to think through how I'm going to get that done.
Yeah, and so we have to write
Robin?
write that down.
You can walk right back there.
So I have to write that down, on my list. And so my list is actually pretty long. So my wife says on my tombstone is going to say, Keith still has things to do.
Yeah. He didn't get it done.
Didn't get it done. So on that, I do have a pretty long list, and of both personal, business, whatever. So, but I write those things down, and so that I can go back and look at that.
And you don't have to worry about
Exactly, worry about that. So
It's
yes,
on the list.
a very important thing to do. So by the way, so submit your questions. We're primarily talking about sleep today during this live session. Matter of fact, this is also going to be recorded. It'll be available at YouTube, at the live section at Prevail Over Cancer at YouTube, and then also on Hyperbaric.plus. And we'll have the recorded versions of this so that you can get that. The handouts are available, but submit your questions live now. We'll answer those in a few minutes. And then we're going to go a little bit further into some other type items. So a supplement protocol. Now, this is not comprehensive. This is the things that I do, for myself and for my clients. When we meet, we'll have different aspects of that. And so these are some supplements that we will do.
And your knowledge of supplementation and what other meds you're doing, they conflict. I mean, you don't just, because you hear something's going to put you to sleep,
Right.
you don't just go out and jump headfirst into it, because there may be some other factors that need to be considered.
Yes, and so some of these things, minerals are not as much of a concern typically, like magnesium. You start on magnesium, and I'm kind of suggesting that you may want to bump that up a little bit as tolerated. We don't want you having loose stools, with that, but increasing the magnesium is one of those things I do. And so actually I'll take 3 of those at night, magnesium glycinate, an hour before bedtime, and as part of that nighttime routine. And then I'll take 3 more today, actually before lunch. So about every 12 hours, I'm taking 300 milligrams of a very well absorbed. I don't get loose stools. That means I'm absorbing it, okay? And also helps keep me from having irregular heartbeats by taking that high dose of magnesium. So, but this hour before bedtime, so when you take something, it has to go into your body, and that blood supply goes through your liver. So if it's an herb, it's going to go through your liver. That means there's potential drug interactions. So we have to evaluate that with your medications. And then it goes through the body. So it's not like an instant type thing. But I usually take these about an hour before bedtime, part of my one hour before sleep option or things to do. So some of the things I take include ashwagandha. And ashwagandha is an herb that helps to normalize the adrenal gland response. And for me, it does help keep me from waking up at 3 o'clock, ready to work. So it's amazing how well that works. And so by doing that. So, and the dosage, it depends on the product. I like to get one that says that it is an extract of the active ingredients. And actually, I do take 2 capsules of that. 1 capsule is okay. This is also not an instant type of a thing either. It seems to work better, helps the adrenal glands to function better over about a week. So if you do start taking it, don't necessarily just think, okay, 1 dose that didn't work. It didn't knock me out like a drug does. We're not going high dose type things. We're helping your body to function better. So, and then the magnesium, definitely take that. Also, I do take melatonin. Actually, I don't have to take it. It takes a small dose, like a half of a milligram to up to 5 milligrams to help a person go to sleep. A lot of people are taking, due to research showing that high doses of melatonin have an anti-cancer effect due to the antioxidant and helping repair the mitochondria, taking higher doses, but only about 5 milligrams is all that's needed. But it has a short half-life. Within 3 hours, half of that melatonin dose is gone. So, if you take a small dose, within a few hours, it's gone. If you take a gigantic dose, it may take 6 hours for that to be gone. So yes, you might sleep a little bit better, a little bit longer. My wife does good with that. So she does take a high dose, and she's able to sleep longer.
Roughly how high?
Roughly how high? It depends on the person. And so, I'm taking, actually, as more of a cancer prevention type program, I'm taking 60 milligrams. And my wife has found that she does better taking 100 milligrams. So actually, with that type of a dose, and with how the body keeps cutting that in half over several hours, now she can actually sleep until 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. So for her, it is definitely helping her. And so my wife is actually, she's had problems sleeping her whole life, even as a child. We also did a neurotransmitter test and couldn't find out why. And her melatonin appears to be fine, but so it's still, there's something in her system that's just not allowing a normal sleep without taking something. But anyway, high doses, we have to be cautious about that. Melatonin at that kind of a dose does have some drowsiness and maybe some hangover effects with that. But it's 100 milligrams is usually good. I have some clients that are taking much higher doses than that, and actually wake up perfectly fine without being groggy. And then I had another friend, an associate, and so every time she would take 6 milligram timed release capsule, she had a difficult time waking up and coming to work. And so so everybody's different on that. So so these doses are kind of general and depends on the person. Another item, that I do take that I can't say that it really helps me, but I've had many people tell me that CBD helps with sleep. And so like the oncoadjunct pathway 1 does have a very highly absorbed CBD in it. So it may help. I've known people actually could just take a drop or two under their tongue, and they say that they sleep better with that. So it depends on the person. Now that is an herbal extract product. There is a risk of interactions with other medications with that. So if you're doing, these are just some foundation things, and you're doing this whole hour or 2 hour thing, and you're still just not going to sleep, there's also a ZRT neurotransmitter test. Actually, there's another company that does that too, but it's an at-home urine collection, and in the urine are our sleep chemicals, and they've actually done maybe 100,000 tests, many thousands of tests on this, and they know what our normal levels. And some of our neurotransmitters are, like cortisol, for example, and glutamate are stimulating. And so if some of these are high, we can do a targeted approach for that. My wife doesn't have that issue, and so that's not why she's awake. I do see that sometimes, but not always. So it's kind of expensive test. It's going to be $350 for that test. It takes a couple of weeks to get the results back, at-home urine collection, send it off to the lab. Sometimes we can find some things. And so it's kind of interesting. Sometimes we can find that actually our antidepressant chemical, serotonin, and one of our calming chemicals called GABA can be low. Well, there's things we can do for that. And then we can actually help get rid of the stimulants or lower those stimulants and improve our body's ability to make the antidepressant type things. Vitamin B6 and magnesium are a couple of items that are necessary to make our neurotransmitters. And so if we're low in those, we've got a problem.
Okay.
And so I've seen people, take vitamin B6 during the daytime and have enough residual so they can go to sleep at night, and maybe even help with their anxiety. On that. So those supplements are going to be very important. So if you have any questions that you would like answered, submit those. Ryan's going to print that off in just a moment. And let's see here. We're going to go to, so blood sugar, and late night meals. So blood sugar, if you're crashing, if your blood sugar goes up, if you eat a snack at night, and your blood sugar crashes later, and you're waking up, you're maybe waking up because your body's telling you it's time to eat. And so that may not be a great item. So we have to figure out those food type items. Some people actually do well having a yogurt or a cottage cheese at night because it's got moderate carbs and it has some proteins. Proteins, our body uses proteins and minerals to make neurotransmitters. Everybody's different on that, but be careful about that late night snacking. So breathing problems, that actually is part of my wife's issue. And so she actually, so this has helped just as much as anything else. She uses a CPAP, a breathing apparatus, continuous positive airflow, and it is definitely helping. And so she's got a just her way her throat opens up at night, she has a tendency to snore, and so she doesn't sleep as well. So that's making a big difference. And she's got the CPAP machine, and her electrical watch does let her know how her sleep is going. She loves these numbers that she's getting.
What are the best wearables? What's the best wearable for sleep? Do you have any ideas? Do you see a better one?
Well, there's the Aura or smart rings as an option, and then the smart watch as an option. Either one of those two are probably better options because they kind of measure a little bit of a movement to a certain extent. If you're moving around a lot, you're not sleeping good. So they also measure oxygen levels and heart rate, things like that. So those are options. My wife loves her watch because it tells her that and gives her that feedback that, yes, she got her 7 or 8 hours and she got 100 score. I mean, she's just like...
My old watch, the best I ever did, I think, was a 82 one time, but I'm usually, 70 to 76.
Yeah, so you got some room for improvement.
Yep.
That's right. So I don't know which would be best. I think whatever's convenient, on that. So I'm just a little bit concerned about some of the wireless electrical frequencies on some of those.
Want,
so that would be my concerns about that. So about now you can actually fix some of them so that they can gather the data and then reconnect to the Wi-Fi or Bluetooth later. So that would be one option to decrease that electrical frequency issue about those. So and then thyroid, we were talking about thyroid earlier, was another person that was here, but thyroid and hormone balance, gut health. So thyroid, taking thyroid before bedtime may not be a great time to take it. That's an energy chemical. Hormone balance, if you're having hot flashes, that's a problem. And so, there are some amino acids and proteins actually help cool the core body temperature, so you sleep better. And so if there's a gut issue and or you're not getting enough protein, that could be a problem too. Although some of the proteins are also stimulants, so everybody's different. So there's not a pill for everybody with this. So get an assessment and don't guess. And then gut health. And so if you got problems and gut problems and you got pain, you're not going to sleep as good. So we do have to try to fix those issues so you can get better sleep. So labs to ask about. So you can get a early morning blood cortisol level. We know what those levels are, but those levels are like this wide, okay? But if your cortisol level is kind of like high normal in the morning, maybe you are high normal at 5 o'clock in the morning.
How do you test for cortisol? Is that a blood test?
Well, that's a blood test. Now, my preference is actually doing a saliva test at home. Actually, there's it's called diurnal. That means actually you can do 4 saliva tests at home. You can do first thing in the morning when you wake up, before noon, before dinner, and again at bedtime. And we can, ideally, our cortisol should be high first thing in the morning and then decrease at night so we can go to sleep at night. If it's high normal, even though low, but high normal low at night, for some people, that's a problem. And so that's where things like ashwagandha or adrenal health are going to be very important.
And that's a test strip that you...
Actually, it's a at-home test collection. You spit into a test tube, 4 different tubes throughout the day, and send that off to a lab.
Send it off. Okay.
Yeah, send it off to a lab. It's called a diurnal cortisol saliva test. Now, there's also another version. Some of them are also like a Dutch hormone test that I like to do that also measures all the other hormones. They'll actually measure your cortisol in your urine, 4 different samples throughout the day. And you get a graph. I mean, it's really nice to see that cortisol. Cortisol is a stimulant. And so if it's going up, it is supposed to go up early in the morning. If it's too high, it will wake us up so that we will not be able to sleep on that. So we can address that if we know that that is an issue. It's not always a pill either, okay? So, there could be some other consulting therapies that a person may have to go through to deal with some emotional issues. So, and then there's neurotransmitters, so sometimes we just don't know. We have to keep assessing to figure that out. So, and then labs. So we got the vitamin D, cortisol, vitamin D, magnesium, a red blood cell magnesium. is a best test. If a person's serum magnesium is low normal, that's suspect. Matter of fact, this last week, I've seen 2 or 3 people, and they were like low normal. That's a problem. We've got to bump that up. Vitamin D is not really a vitamin. It's a hormone our body makes with sunshine exposure. And then the neurotransmitter panel. So I have a link on my website on the resources page, Rupa Health, RUPA, and or a lot of compounding pharmacies in the United States have these tests too. Like Flourish Compounding Pharmacy's got that test too. So
Sounds like our printer is not working.
yeah, we heard some noises there, didn't we? So
All right, well, I'm going to read these
Okay,
off. How about
good.
it? Excellent. Thank you.
great, you're welcome.
Thank you. What do you mean by breathing and blinking to sleep?
Okay, and so I call it therapeutic breathing. So you can email me for that download. I'm not sure that download's on my website because I'm upgrading it. Actually, I have upgraded the therapeutic breathing guide, but by breathing in a certain way, actually, there's half a dozen ways to do this, but one of them is just breathing in for a count of 4, kind of like 4 seconds, and then breathing out for about 6 seconds. So breathing in through your nose, breathing out through your mouth, just breathing through your nose. There's all kinds of variations on that.
And the one breathing through your nose creates nitric oxide.
Yes.
And then the one that you told me early on was as you're exhaling, count.
Count. It was in your mind, count.
Yeah, and see how far you get. You were kind of shooting for 16, 17.
I'd go 16, 17, 21 sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I count that. But the fact of that physical breathing is relaxing and then counting.
Takes your mind off
Takes your
whatever
mind
it is.
off of,
yeah.
and I'm not even, matter of fact, I'm not even aware of what's going on that silly TV show, what the animals are doing. I'm not even aware of it.
Right.
And I'm concentrating the breathing and the physical type thing, breathing out through pursed lips, you can control that rate.
Right.
And so you can, purse means whistle type of thing,
Right.
like that, but without whistling. But
Don't
you
whistle, your wife will smack you.
can, that's right.
But anyway.
And so, but you can control that breath coming out, and don't force it out. It needs to just come out.
Right.
And so, but it helps lower blood pressure. It helps lower my blood pressure. It helps make me so I'm not as acidic. But also that counting is relaxing. Same thing with the blink. So to try to answer that question briefly, so blinking, you're concentrating on doing something that's not major physical activity, but part of going to sleep is closing your eyes. And matter of fact, before you go to sleep, your eyes you're definitely staying closed longer as you're fighting that. When you watch a child, I mean, they're rubbing their eyes and trying to fight that. Well, we can mimic some of that, evidently. And so this is a new technique. I will have that on my website this afternoon since it's back up. It sounds like, and working. So, but you blink in a rhythm, and even kind of in your mind count a little bit. So you can do everything from just blinking just on a regular pattern, like just blink, close your eyes, open, close your eyes, open, close your eyes, and open. Even just doing that is okay.
Well, I'm anxious to try
It's
it probably tonight.
Yeah.
When I can't go back to sleep.
Yeah.
So,
And you can even do it when it's dark.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Once again, and when I was in college, I mentioned this 2 weeks ago, had Psych 101 in college. We actually went through the exercise of starting at your toes and tightening your toes and relaxing them, and tightening up your feet muscles and relaxing them, and working up in your calves, and work through your whole body, moving things. And actually, that's why I discovered I could go to sleep within a couple of minutes of doing those things.
Well, you're taking your mind off
Exactly.
those things you're thinking,
off
because you
the
can't
problems.
think of both of them.
That's right.
So
that's the purpose of going, probably the blink. There may be another physiological thing too with both that.
is there something we can drink prior to bed to help us go to sleep?
Well, there might be.
Hot milk? I mean, warm milk?
There are, by heating milk, that changes one of the amino acids into more of a tryptophan type product. And tryptophan is a precursor to serotonin, which is a precursor to melatonin. So sometimes a hot beverage could help out. There are also some herbal teas, that are available that have relaxing type things, and actually it could be even just be part of that routine of making it and just going through. Matter of fact, that's part of my routine.
I think around Thanksgiving, you and I had a conversation about why everybody eats turkey
Sleep.
at
Sleep.
Thanksgiving is because turkey's high in tryptophan.
Yes, it is, but also it may be because they're going hypoglycemic too after that meal.
There you go.
The mashed potatoes
Yeah.
and gravy and bread
Yeah.
and all those sweets and things like that. They may be going hypoglycemic
Every time I hear
too.
tryptophan, I think of turkey.
Exactly,
Anyway.
exactly. So that may be it. So
Go ahead,
okay.
number 4.
Okay. If I dream, does it mean I am having proper REM sleep? I'm not an expert in that. I don't know.
I brought it up, and so Keith got me on magnesium glycinate, and,
Yeah, and
I
you
just
noticed.
started. I'm at a low dose, and all of a sudden I'm having these dreams that I remember, and I haven't been dreaming. So I got to think that's getting into a little deeper sleep.
I would think so. I'm not.
But I don't know.
That.
I don't have any science on
That's
that.
right. I have
so.
not researched that. So the great question. I don't know. And so yes, dreams are a natural part of our sleep process.
Keep having to use the bathroom late at night. Is there something wrong with my cortisol?
Well, probably not directly, although it's a stress, and especially if you also are mentally allowing that to frustrate you, that creates more stress. Okay, and yes, there can be physical things happening, that may, like having to go to the bathroom. Well, it's got to be a dark room. Literally, my room is so dark, I can't see anything when I get up. And in fact, we live in the country, and we black out the windows still because I just don't want any light coming in. So that's very important. And if by chance you do have to turn on a light or something like that, close your eyes. Matter of fact, even an hour before bedtime, I'm brushing my teeth with my eyes closed because I don't want any lights coming in. And so that's an hour before bedtime. So I'm trying to reduce any type of stimulation. So once I put the toothpaste on, there goes the light switch. As a matter of fact, there's only one light bulb that was on anyway, so it wasn't much. But then I closed my eyes. So so I don't know. Hopefully that helps out with
I
that.
limit my intake of liquids as I'm coming into the evening hours. I mean, I know I'm supposed to stay hydrated, but I don't want to get up all night. So
Right.
I start limiting my intake of fluids around 7 o'clock. I don't try not to drink anything.
Right. Yes, and that's going to be, that could be beneficial, definitely. We still have to get enough fluids and stuff. Now, some medications like taking cortisol, cortisones, dexamethasone, for example, for cancer treatments, a lot of times those medications and cortisones are given to reduce side effects of chemotherapy. That's a stimulant. And so that may be an issue. So taking it earlier in the day, weaning the dose, trying to bring back that dose to a lower dose with your doctor, work with your team on that. You don't stop if you've been taking cortisone for a while, you don't stop all of a sudden. Your body's used to it. You can run into a crisis, literally a major health crisis, if you try to stop that suddenly. And so, but weaning off of it, taking ashwagandha, I don't know if it would help that much. It might, because ashwagandha is actually decreasing what your body makes. It's not going to decrease the synthetic version.
I see.
Okay, it's not going to lower even a natural. There are some natural cortisones. Compounding pharmacies make that with prescriptions. It's not going to necessarily lower that. It's lowering what your adrenal glands make on that. So,
Well, I'm gonna go to number 7, which is a shout out, so it'll be quick. It says Hyperbarics is great for brain injury and concussion. Well,
yeah, how about that?
I think the same thing.
That's
We're
right.
on the same page there.
right.
I'll back up on a steroid for a brain tumor. Side effect insomnia. They are swearing off. They're wearing off now.
Weaning off now.
Weaning off now.
Right, mhm.
I will put my glasses on. I will try ashwagandha.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what, we want to decrease the dose. Matter of fact, there are studies showing that people that have less dexamethasone dose live longer than in cancer treatments than people that have higher doses. And so dexamethasone also increases blood glucose levels, and glucose is an easy fuel for cancer cells too. So we want to minimize that dose as much as possible. and or frequency of it, do shorter terms, just around the treatment. Now, also this person was taking it for a brain, and so actually it does reduce swelling in the brain. So that's one reason why they're doing that too, especially with radiation treatment in the brain.
So we'll end on this one, and then we've got a couple more we'll answer. Keith will answer.
Online.
But does hyperbarics help me sleep? The first thing most all of our clients tell us on their second attempt when they come back is, man, did I sleep good last night? And so that is typically a positive thing.
Yeah.
So,
I'll have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, yeah. So typically,
okay.
especially starting out. Now, some of that may be die-off. Some of that may be
some
that you're getting rid of some
response
pathogens.
and some immune things like that.
But
make you
everybody
feel more
says they
fatigued.
sleep very well after the first session.
Okay.
It's almost across the board.
Okay.
So we're at the hour. Everybody's trying to jump in the chamber. Keith, as always, thank you for being here, and thank you for the wealth of knowledge you bring to what we're doing.
Sure.
And
You're welcome.
I encourage everyone to go to prevailovercancer.com. And if you're ever in the neighborhood of 122nd and May in Oklahoma City, come in and take us for a ride. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's right.
And you'll learn a lot. Imagine a whole bunch of Keiths in the chamber. Everybody's a professional in the chamber.
Everybody's got experiences.
There's a lot of storytelling
That's
of what
right.
they've gone through. So it's real stories, and that's what we got, this little community that everybody brags about that we
right.
get to come and participate.
Yeah, so Thursday at 10 o'clock
Yep.
is kind of a cancer and Lyme session.
Yeah, so that's when Keith's here, and you got his undivided attention for an hour, and then we get out and do the podcast. Well, hey, Keith, thanks again for being here. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
We do the little potato shake, and come see us again next week. We'll be here Thursday next week. Thank you. All right. Thanks again, Keith.
Sure.
I don't know if we got anybody that's needing to visit.